Welcome everybody to the state of NXT.
Support, no DQ.
Based on the fact that we are essentially in a new year for wrestling. For wrestling, year is basically WrestleMania to WrestleMania, or in our case with NXT, NXT TakeOver, wherever the fuck WrestleMania is at, to NXT TakeOver, wherever the fuck the next WrestleMania is at. So, we are at basically a new cycle. We have got several NXT superstars that have been both temporarily and permanently taken to the main roster, Raw and SmackDown. We know that the War Raiders still have the NXT Tag Team Championships around their waist, and yet have gotten called up to the main roster. So that is one of those that may be temporary, may be permanent, but for now, they're at least on both brands. We want to talk about where all of these call-ups and drafts and everything else are going to leave NXT.
Yes.
So, Jerry, this was your idea. Why don't you dabble a little further into the idea?
Well, we have to go back about 2 months at this point.
Yeah.
That because this is where everything began for us, really. Not really a downfall as much as like, okay, a whole bunch of people are getting pulled out of NXT.
Well, it started with Lars Sullivan.
Yes. It started with Lars, and then it went, like, it was like Lars, it was EC3, it was Lacey Evans, it was Nikki Cross, it was Aleister Black, Ricochet, it was Ciampa, Gargano, it was all of them. And, Heavy Machinery. I keep on forgetting about Heavy Machinery because they've been turned into a fucking novelty act already.
Oh, they were always a novelty act.
But even then, they were actually taking as a little legitimate threat at the belts for a little bit, too.
Well, the drafts or the call-ups or fucking whatever you want to call them, sometimes you don't want to call them call-up to the main roster because they end up doing so much worse.
They get buried.
But this happened in 3 waves. It started with Lars Sullivan, single fellow.
Yeah.
Just him was getting called up. That was fine.
Yes.
Fine and or dandy.
Yes, George Carlin. Yes.
But I don't know if the wave of popularity behind the idea of calling up somebody from NXT like happened there, and they're like, oh, we got to capitalize on this, or if it was just something thrown out there when they had the whole crisis that led them to come out and say, hey, because of Baron Corbin, we've been doing this really badly, and we're going to start doing better, and the audience is now the authority, and no more GMs, and blah, and all of that. The reset, that hard reset that we all witnessed cringingly a couple of months ago. Following that, we had, or it might have been that night,
yeah,
we had the announcement of all of the others that surrounded Lars Sullivan in that initial pool. So this was wave 2. So we had Lacey Evans, we had Nikki Cross, even though we had already seen Nikki Cross on the main roster.
Yeah.
She already wrestled. She had shown up, where was she? It was a pay-per-view or something. Didn't wrestle, just was there. And talking about, you never know where Nikki Cross will show up. Maybe it was the women's pay-per-view. Who knows?
Probably.
No, maybe it was the Raw after that.
I think it was SmackDown. But either way, she showed up.
So you had Nikki Cross and Lacey Evans. You had Heavy Machinery, Otis Dozovich and Tucker Knight.
Yep.
I knew I'd remember them.
Yep.
No, I actually didn't know I would remember them. But anyway, so you had them. You had Lars Sullivan, of course. You had EC3.
Support, no DQ.
Wave 3 was Aleister Black, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, and Ricochet.
Yes.
And Aleister Black and Ricochet became the tag team. Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano were supposed to be a tag team.
Yeah.
Although they might have been intended to be broken up because of previous television tapings for NXT. But who knows at this point, because the main roster might have gone completely off script and just not cared about the kayfabe world of NXT and been like, well, on NXT they might be feuding, but here on Raw they're a fucking tag team.
Yeah, they're DIY. They're inseparable. They're buddies to the end. And all the while, Johnny Gargano's throwing Ciampa headfirst into freaking...
Yeah, except on Wednesday nights when they're beating the hell out of each other. And at
and
NXT,
feuding over a span of 2 years.
And at NXT TakeOver, where they were supposed to have their last match for the NXT Championship.
Which was going to be an Iron Man match. There's really no denying that. He had the Iron Man costume. They were still calling him the Iron Man of NXT. It was going to be an Iron Man match. It wasn't going to be a 2 out of 3 falls match like we got with Gargano and Cole, which still was a 5-star match in its own right. But at the same time, yeah, it was supposed to be an Iron Man match, and we got kind of cheated out of it. But at the same time, injuries happen. We understand that. Triple H pulled that to pay-per-view out of his ass, and it turned into a good one regardless.
Well, I think that's the only match that he really had to worry about.
Well, I think he had to reroute a whole bunch of stuff, because chances are, if it was going to be Gargano versus Ciampa, that means Cole would have been in the win, which means he probably would have faced off against Velveteen Dream. There's no telling where Matt Riddle would have ended up on the card.
I think Matt Riddle versus Velveteen Dream was the plan.
Or could have been a triple threat between the three.
Maybe. But that brings us to 8 people.
Yes.
Scale it back to... No, that was 10 people.
Yeah, 10 people. You
scale it back to 8 because Ciampa's out because of the neck surgery, and now Johnny Gargano is the NXT champion, and it seems like he's been reeled back into NXT.
Here's where the problem lies with me. We're about to get into these call-ups that we got this past week, but up until this point, they weren't doing shit with the people that they had. They had Lacey Evans coming down to the ring, turning around and leaving, which, granted, I called it. She was going to make her presence known. She was going to finding her spot. But people were already getting sick of Lacey Evans at this point because of that. Lars Sullivan, complete fucking freak out.
Lars Sullivan was so good at lurking that he just disappeared altogether. Nobody could see him to do an interview. Nobody could get footage because he was just lurking.
He was doing better not being seen than John Cena.
Yeah, definitely. But he's there now.
Tucker and Knight, they're not doing shit except for comedy sketches, but No Way Jose and Alexa Bliss, it seems like.
Now, to be fair, Heavy Machinery was a gimmick in NXT too. They are a comedy tag team. They just have good power, and in NXT, where their size is actually bigger than most,
yeah,
it's good. But on the main roster, they're still going to be a comedy tag team. Now they're not the biggest guys in the locker room, and this is where I expected them to end up.
Yeah, and then we have EC3, who's in a doghouse most of the time, but surprise, surprise, guess who gets teamed up with now? Drake Maverick. Guess where that happened before? TNA Impact with a Rockstar Spud.
So they're going to probably bury him in Rockstar Spud.
Yep.
Or
Drake Maverick. See, and then we have, the biggest crime I think we had through all of this is more or less Nikki Cross still being twisting in the wind at this point, too. Granted, I think they're going to turn her into Sister Abigail, something I've been talking about forever, and now it's actually catching on as well, too, with everybody else. She's got that craziness to her. Her and Bray Wyatt would make a cool pairing in some way, shape, or form. And it'd be a way of making Bray Wyatt somewhat relevant again.
Well, now that you mentioned Nikki Cross,
yeah,
she is one of the superstars who is mysteriously absent from placement or shake-upness on WWE's website with the final tally of who went to Raw and who went to SmackDown.
Yeah.
They've placed most of those 8, if not all of them.
Yeah.
And they've drafted a few from Raw to SmackDown and SmackDown to Raw. But Nikki Cross is nowhere on that list. And she was one of the initial waves, the second wave, I believe,
yeah,
where she was not branded coming in. So she could have gone to either brand, and so far nobody's claimed her.
Well, the thing is with her is also the fact that we didn't really get much finality with her in NXT as well. We got her versus Bianca Belair during the whole Aleister Black Gargano feud, and that was really entertaining. That was super entertaining. And then the last match we get with her was against Mia Yim, which we called as being her last match because she said that was fun. She wasn't talking about just that match. She was talking about her stay in NXT at that point. But since then, nothing. Not really anything. a couple, like, she made her Rumble, or her, like, what was it, the Battle Royal appearance, and she got eliminated, maybe 3 or 4 people in.
Well, although she has not been placed, we do have placements, and we've got these, or you've got these written down.
Yeah.
So we've got everybody that we've lost from NXT to either the initial waves of call-ups or the Superstar Shakeup.
We've got Lacey Evans, Black and Ricochet, EC3, and
the War Raiders / the Viking Experience. It's not that he forgot who they are, it's that he really resents the fact that they're called the Viking Experience.
It's a horrible fucking
It
name.
really, really is. But that's a topic
Were you in Norway at that point? The Viking Experience was very, very bad.
Remember that, and we'll talk about it tomorrow night on the Rated R Report. So, for SmackDown, we have
Kairi Sane, Lars Sullivan, and Heavy Machinery, which is just Otis and Tucker with no last names.
Yeah, none of the fun stuff. So, no Dozovich. Like, that's why the whole thing makes sense, is because his last name sounds like
Dozer. Yes.
Geniuses they are, geniuses. If you're only going to keep one of his names, Dozovich is the one to keep.
Yes.
Oh, which one do you think they're going to keep with Dijakovic?
They'll probably just completely change his name.
So here's the thing. During all of this, we have lost, who is it now, 10?
Yeah.
Because we got Kairi Sane called up without being part of the wave, and we also got...
at that point, but...
So that's 11 now.
Yeah.
Because that's a tag team. So we've got 11 lost from NXT to the main roster. And granted, the Viking Experience...
Yeah.
Is not completely to the main roster yet. They still have the NXT Tag Team Championships, but that's only going to be for so long. We have lost 11, and during all of this, we have gained Kushida.
Yes.
One superstar to fill in the void.
Yes.
This is leaving a very bare bones NXT, and I think that's why it's important to call a state of NXT. Where the fuck does NXT go from here? Are there superstars out there right now that can come in and fill the void without having to resort to taking every good person you've got from NXT UK and 205 Live?
Yes. That's what they're resorting to at this point, is having to bring in star power from these other shows. Especially now, I think we're going to be getting Pete Dunne from NXT UK but being moved over to the States. I saw that in the exclusive, like William Regal looked Pete Dunne up and down. I believe he's going to be the next contender, and that's why he didn't make the match with Adam Cole for Roderick Strong and Johnny Gargano to be the championship match. Is the fact that he's saving that for Pete Dunne.
This would have been a really good show to do with Cindy G and Noah Foster.
They're tired.
Especially Cindy, because she knows the indies.
Yes.
And she would probably be able to name a dozen or more people on the indie scene right now that could come into NXT and fill those voids.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't watch any of that.
But here's where this is the stuff that's been bothering me also, is the fact that within the past couple weeks also we've been losing a whole bunch of people that have come up from NXT as well, just out of frustrations with the company. We've lost Alexander Wolf. We've lost Luke Harper. Sasha is more or less trying to get herself fired at this point.
That's how it seems.
It is how it seems, but at the same time, Dean Ambrose, we'll go ahead and call him too, because he started off in NXT before then Florida Championship Wrestling, which NXT spawned off of. So we're losing all these performers and whatnot because A, they're not being properly pushed, or pushed in the same way that they were in NXT. You gotta figure, Sasha Banks, her title reigns that she had in the main roster so far have lasted less than a month. 28 days, I think, at most. And the first ever women's tag champions didn't even hold the belts for her first defense. So that's automatically kind of a slap in the face, I believe. So, and then also we have, like I said, we had Tommaso Ciampa debuting, and he was still NXT champion. We also had Johnny Gargano on the show. And now we're getting the War Raiders, and they still have the belts. how are we supposed to believe that these guys are actually going to have, longer title reigns or whatnot in NXT since all of it's pre-recorded? And still actually believe there's going to be a title reign involved and not get disenchanted with the product.
Okay, so you can call me cynical.
Yes.
Or you can call me a realist.
Yes.
That, sir, is the nature of the business.
Yes.
You are stuck in the idea that because it's WWE NXT, that it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's not. If there was no NXT, all of these people would be getting called up from their local indie brands.
Yes.
And where they are probably treated like kings for a jester's salary.
Big fish in a small pond, but less pay, yes.
When you call up to WWE from NXT, you are not calling up the best of the best to come and be the best of the best. You are calling up guys that have been trained to be WWE superstars who are getting called up to fill the spots that are available. And they're not all main event spots, ladies and gentlemen.
No, they're not.
This is the nature of the business.
Yeah. Alright, so let me ask you this question, and this is one that I posed on our bar a little while ago, and I don't think you responded to it. Not a lot of people did. But is it safe to say that maybe Vince is using this as a power play to keep people from bouncing out there to AEW or leaving the company in general? This is how easy I can replace you. I pull people out of NXT. I'll make them a star in spite of you. There's the door. Get out.
No, this is just an adrenaline shot to the chest of Raw and SmackDown. He needs to do something to change up the landscape of both brands so that it is different and entertaining again because people are tuning out.
But he's also draining the talent pool at this point of NXT as well.
What the fuck does he care?
He doesn't care, and that's what bothers me about it. Is the fact that this, I get it's a development brand, but at the same time, you don't have to pull like so many people out there at a time.
If there was no WWE,
yeah,
there would be no NXT.
Yes.
It would still be Florida Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
And let Vince do what he has to do, man. NXT will survive the same way they have the last several, 8, 9 years.
I have no doubt they're going to build some stars in spite of themselves, but at the same time, leave some superstars in there enough to actually,
We still have Adam Cole, we still have Johnny Gargano, we've got Dijakovic, we've got Keith Lee once he's not injured, we've got Matt Riddle, we've got Velveteen Dream, we've got...
But for how long?
Oh yeah, but that's the nature of the business, sir. If this was an independent company, unless they lived in the area, they don't have them for very long. They've got them for a season.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or maybe just one night they're passing through. Big star. Johnny fill in the blank.
Yes.
Johnny fill in the blank. Whatever company you are, that's my last name. He happened to be driving through and they're like, hey, you want to do our show? He's like, yeah, I got free time. How much you paying? Oh, perfect.
Yes.
That shit happens too. It's about utilizing the talent you have properly, which NXT manages to do. So they're usually just fine. What you see is lulls in some of the hotness of the storylines. Like, we're definitely coming out of Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa for at least 1.5 years.
Oh, yeah.
So,
if not longer. That may have been the final chapter.
Where do you fill in the rest of it? Well, I tell you one thing they did correctly. They kept Shayna Baszler on NXT.
Yes. Because Jessamine Duke and Maria Shafir need help, and these new call-ups that they have for women.
And who did they call up instead? Kairi Sane. And Shayna Baszler gave her a hell of a goodbye, stomping on that arm.
Yep.
God damn.
But Kairi Sane makes a lot of sense to me to get called up.
Fuck, let her get called up,
I was about to say, because
Pirate Princess be gone.
Yes.
From my NXT.
I was about to say, her gimmick is very cartoony, and that's what they kind of need to sell the hats and sell the t-shirts and whatnot at the live events. That's fine. But some of these other stars... Yeah, it just bothers me is all. That and just the way they're brought up so suddenly and whatnot. I have my own idea for, how that kind of system should work. I'm not sure if this is a good platform for it or if I should say it for
Go for it, man.
Okay, cool. Instead of a superstar shakeup, have it so general managers pop up on shows and make trades and drafts and whatnot with the actual other general managers. That almost like a hired gun kind of mercenary kind of thing going on with just amongst the general managers. Like one night during Raw or something, you have Sid Scala and Johnny Saint for no apparent reason showing up on Raw backstage talking to whoever's in charge of Raw. And they'll make a trade-off for certain superstars, and you don't know who's going over to where and for how long until it actually happens. That would actually make for some interesting television. It's like, who are they bringing over? Who are they going to be going against? We don't know. And then at like maybe triannually, but I would actually think biannually, one male superstar and one female superstar from NXT gets to call up at a draft. They get announced. They actually get their final match in NXT, get to say goodbye, get out the door, boom.
Okay, so that's okay. I would like to take that and refine it, hone it, if you will, and expand it.
Absolutely. Take your sip of tea, and then we'll do this.
So I think the superstar shakeup is stupid. It is probably the worst incarnation of how they've done this ever. Because essentially it's just telling you point blank, we've made all these decisions in the back, us, the McMahon family, and we're just going to present it to you.
Yeah.
Just however we feel like it. Like, no draft, no nothing. Like, just, we're going to move people around and show you what we did. Hey, did you enjoy it? I think they got the idea wrong that people don't like general managers. People don't like McMahon's in power unless, in one specific instance, in the late 90s, when it was Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Mr. McMahon, everywhere you turned, that was the only time they enjoyed a McMahon in power. Other than that, people hate it. And we know they run the show, but suspend our disbelief and allow us to imagine they don't. What we like are general managers like Mick Foley when he was the commissioner.
I like Regal.
Just general managers that do not necessarily represent the system or the McMahons, and more so represent the fans.
Yeah.
So you bring back general managers, you completely take away the McMahon family. All of them. From television.
Yes.
Period. Mm-hmm. And this is a guy that loves to see Stephanie McMahon on television.
Oh.
See her.
Yeah.
Not hear her entrance music.
Well, I'm all grown up.
Welcome to the Queendom. Where the kings bow down. Oh God! And now it's going to be stuck in my head. So, get rid of the McMahons. Have general managers. I'm not even going to say who they should be. Who the fuck cares?
No.
Make one of them Edge. Make one of them
Edge for Raw, definitely.
And make one of them Paige again.
Paige.
Bring back Paige for SmackDown. Jesus, she was a great general manager. She just did her job and nothing else. And did it well.
I wouldn't mind if for some reason Johnny Saint were retired and let Paige and Scala run UK.
But for these purposes, it doesn't matter. So you use the technique that you suggested, where occasionally a GM will show up on the other show and announce with the other GM a trade deal.
Yeah.
Where one superstar or tag team gets traded for another. That way you don't have to wait for one specific time of the year to shake things up a little bit. That's where the shakeup comes in.
Yeah.
The draft will be a draft, and it will be based off of merit. And for me, I think the first pay-per-view you have after WrestleMania, call it draft something. Don't call it draft lottery. That's a different thing.
Oh, yeah.
We don't want to draw the drafts out of
a hat or some shit.
Yeah.
Or a tumbler.
We want this to be the one time a year where Raw and SmackDown compete one-on-one, and it has a meaning. Every match gets you different drafts, and the main event gets you the first draft. Shit like that.
Yeah, that'd be beautiful.
And, of course, it's all scripted, but who cares? At least the one time a year when Raw and SmackDown go head-to-head in competition actually means something. So have that be the first pay-per-view after WrestleMania, and on the following Monday and Tuesday, or it'll probably be Monday and Friday by this time, that's when you do the actual draft. And they'll do half of it on Raw and half of it on SmackDown. And there you go. And that's when you can do big shakeups. But yeah, during the year, why not have brands do trades? Why does that not make sense? This is sports entertainment, right? But it's still sports.
It keeps things fresh, for one. Two, there's that like uncertainty. Like all of a sudden, like you be watching a match and somebody from NXT UK just pops in. Like you're watching some sort of classic show up, and all of a sudden Pete Dunne ends up on the top of the ramp. You're like, what the shit is he doing here? And Jordan Devlin comes out right behind him. It's like, both of them?
Now, I see you're trying to correlate this with NXT and NXT UK, but I do not, personally, I don't think this is a system that will benefit NXT and NXT UK until there is a third brand. Yeah. Once we see the opening of NXT Australia
or Japan
or NXT Japan or NXT Germany or wherever the fuck the next NXT is going to be.
I don't think they'll go Germany. I don't think they'll go anything else European right now. Because like right now they need a European title is what they need. And they can't make that bigger than the United Kingdom belt. So
just because you think it doesn't make sense for them to go Germany next doesn't mean they won't go Germany
next.
They're
going to go Germany next. You know why? Because my predictions are fucking wrong.
I just think Australia makes more sense because they speak English natively.
Yeah.
Well, not natively.
But yeah, I figure almost half half of what we have in NXT UK right now is Australian.
So I think once there's a third brand, this would be brilliant to extend to NXT.
Yeah.
Because then you can have all three brands competing, and you can have the one time a year where all three brands compete on the same NXT takeover.
Yeah.
And you have three brands competing for the drafts. Yeah. And so then you'll have three shows where you do drafts on. It would be awesome.
Yeah. NXT draft.
You'd have general managers showing up via Skype at the early times in the morning because it's in fucking Australia.
Yeah.
You know, like I think they would be best once it's three brands. But at two, I just don't see the need for it because right now you've got so many people coming in, especially in NXT UK and especially now NXT. Now that there's a lot of spots open, you're gonna have a lot of people coming in. No need for a shakeup anytime soon.
No, there won't be any need until somebody else leaves, and then McMahon has to pull three other people he feels out of NXT just to fill that void.
On Raw and SmackDown, there is a definite need to move people back and forth.
Yeah.
But on NXT and NXT UK, there is no need. And even once there's a third brand, let's call it NXT Australia, there still won't be a need, but purely for the gimmick of it would be brilliant.
Yeah. All right, so real quick, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up so we don't make this super long. Where do we see like these people that got called up feuding? Because we see Lacey Evans already starting shit with Becky Lynch. Where do we see Black and Ricochet at? Do we see them breaking up anytime soon? EC3, who's going to be his first opponent? Or
with EC3, I don't care. He's going to be a mid-card talent, probably jobbing out a lot. Same thing with Heavy Machinery. Lacey Evans is getting thrust into the top spot. She is not, I don't think, going to win the title off of Becky Lynch.
No.
But I'm glad they're putting her into a high-profile spot, especially if she can shine in the match like she did with Natalya on, what was it, SmackDown?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my problem also with that is the fact that now, if Lacey Evans loses,
Raw. I think it was Raw.
Yeah, it was. If Lacey Evans is to lose, where does that leave her?
She's definitely going to lose. She'll go back into the pile, and maybe they'll find her a suitable person to feud with. But I mean, she'll go back in the pile, same as everybody else. It's all in the business.
I'm just hoping it's not one of those flash in the pan things. And she loses the match, and next thing we know, she's being wished the best in her future endeavors.
So far, obviously, they've seen something in her to put her in the spot they've put her. It all depends on how she looks in that spot.
Because you gotta figure, another NXT call-up, Johnny Curtis, a.k.a. Fandango. Yeah. For a longest time, they had his gimmick going that if you didn't pronounce his name right, he wasn't going to come down to the ring and fight you. He ends up fighting Jericho in his first match at WrestleMania, wins, and then after that,
Well, he was pretty hot for a while.
yeah,
Mid card as hell, but hot for a while. It was when they tried to spice things up by splitting him up with Summer Rae,
yeah.
and like he turned heel, and it all
And
just
where
went
they
down.
now file?
Yeah. So and then I thought he was doing great with Tyler Breeze with the Fashion Police.
Yeah.
Not in the ring
No.
with the vignettes in the back.
Yeah.
Those were great. And WWE just killed them because this was back before they realized, oh yeah, we better start giving the audience what they want or they're going to tune out. That's why we got Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, and Kofi Kingston all win at WrestleMania, because I knew that shit was going to happen, because they had to pay off the promise to start giving us what we want at some point. And what better way than to do all three in the same night at WrestleMania 35? Boom, done. So this is a trend. And the thing is, in order for them to give us what we want, we have to make sure they know what we want.
Well, I still don't think NXT should really have to suffer for it as heavily as they have been.
NXT doesn't get to call it. Triple H already tries to give the NXT crowd what they want based on what he's got.
And he does a fantastic job of it. I will not take that away from the dude.
I think the state of NXT is just fine. This is just one of those times where they're going to have an influx of people come in and do good.
Pretty much like the first real big OVW shakeup where John Cena, Batista, Randy Orton, and pretty much those three all got pretty much called up at the same time.
There is more than likely enough people in the indies with the caliber of the people that just left to come in and fill those spots twice over.
There's no doubt.
We just don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Most of the people we already knew have already gotten snatched up by NXT. Keith Lee was one I knew specifically because of Wrestle Talk, but that's a British wrestling program. Like all the guys they like indie wise are already getting snatched up by NXT UK. So that leaves us with nobody that we know to talk about. Will Ospreay, that would be great, but I think he signed a deal with New Japan.
I was about to say him or Zack Sabre Jr.
So there are people that can come in and step up and fill these roles, but if they're British, they need to go to NXT UK.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that. That brand needs them too.
Yep.
As far as American go, I don't know.
I was about to say, who do you think would be the first casualty from NXT UK to bring over to the main brands? Do you think it's going to be Pete Dunne at this point?
Probably.
I would think Pete
Either
Dunne.
Pete Dunne or Rhea Ripley.
Oh, I see them both coming over at the same time, probably.
As soon as Vince gets a look at Rhea Ripley, he's going to be like, oh yeah, main roster.
Oh, yeah.
I want her.
Yep.
And I agree, Vince. I want her too.
her.
That would be great. Just saying.
You're sick the other day. Sent you a picture of her. Doing great now.
Yeah. Picture of Rhea Ripley cured my stomach.
Yep, it did.
Yep.
Cured what ailed you.
Not really, but it was still a nice picture.
Yes, it was.
So, is that all you wanted to cover with the state of NXT?
Absolutely. I just wanted to get that off my chest because it was annoying. It's almost like that kid growing up that would always get that yellow Tonka truck or some shit, you know, and like he'd always have these great other toys that he wasn't playing with. So you try to reach for them and grab them while he's playing with the yellow Tonka truck. He's like, no, those are mine too. Leave them alone. Like, that's what the yellow Tonka truck to me feels like the NXT superstars, and the other toys feel like the WWE superstars that he's not using properly or not using at all, and they're getting disenfranchised and wanting to leave.
Well, you can't stay in NXT forever.
No, you can't.
I mean, you can stay in there until you die, but you can't stay there forever.
Oh.
Just saying, can't be there forever. So, this has gone on a pretty good long time. So this is probably going to be bonus content on Aftermatch.
Probably.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next edition of bonus content. I don't know what we'll call it. Just the state of NXT.
Yeah, state of NXT.
That's what's
address.
important, is the state of NXT. So, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to get... Perfect timing. If you'd like to get up here on the big screen and join us for a spot of NXT maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Help us review a future episode of NXT UK on the NXT party. Or maybe you just want to have a chat about wrestling with us. We'll do an episode of the Rated R Report with you. if it's your first time on, you'll be up there all by yourself. Colin Andrew did it. You could help us review an NXT takeover.
Yeah.
That has happened. So, if you'd like to join us, you can find me on Twitter. Go to nodq.com/Stefan. That's Stefan. Or if you just want to look me up on Twitter, it's at Stefan R. Osborne, Osborne. As always, the R stands for restricted. You can also find this gentleman on Twitter.
At NoDQ General. And also on my Facebook group, Armbar, all capital, ARMBAR.
Exclamation point!
We've added a whole bunch of people since then, and I've actually mentioned that we're going to be probably doing this, like save the NXT thing. And if you guys have any comments or know anybody that wants to make comments, make them below. Tell us what you think would make NXT, not really viable. It's already still viable, but what they need to do to stay that way through this huge shakeup that we're having. Because right now,
this huge draining of NXT.
Yes,
talent. Yes, let's just say
it's a flushing, is what it is.
Flush. Well, no, it's an upwards flushing because it took the best turds in NXT and sent them to.
I don't know. It's kind of flooding at this point.
So whatever the euphemism.
Yes.
So that was at NoDQ General.
Yes.
By the way.
Yes.
Yeah, my little.
It's okay. Nobody follows me on Twitter. It's cool.
That's just to exclaim about the reason that I say restricted.
Yes.
Because, yes.
Yeah, we got it. You don't gotta bury the joke.
I'm rated R everything.
Okay.
Everything's rated R. So, if you like our video, you should click the like button. That's underneath me, down here somewhere. And if you like all of our videos, you should probably click the subscribe button. So you are here on Aftermatch, and thank you. If you have just now subscribed, you are helping us on our goal to 100 subscribers, at which time we will start doing our show What's NXT live on Aftermatch Wrestling. And so thank you for subscribing if you did. And if you have friends out there that don't watch our program, that watch NXT and like reviews, click that like button. That's down there in between there somewhere. Or not the like button, the share button.
The share button, yes.
It'll bring up a little bar on your phone. Just click Twitter, and if you want to put a few words or tag us or whatever, that's cool. Or if you just want to quick share it, just share it to Twitter, share it to Facebook, share it to your YouTube page, whatever.
Share it with your grandmother. I don't give a shit. Just share.
At 100 subscribers, we're going live so that you can ask us questions during What's NXT, and we will answer them at the end of the video.
Yep.
So.
Or sometimes during. Who knows?
Thank you for joining us for the General Jerry Slaughter. I am the Wizard of NoDQ, Stefan Osborne, and thanks for joining us. We will see you NXT time.
And God bless America.
NoDQ.com/shirts.